Drama as political parties race against time to form fragile coalitions. We bring you the latest news, insights, and analysis. The Watchdog starts now. A very good evening to you. Welcome to this Monday edition of our program, coming to you live from the SABC's Auckland Park studios here in Johannesburg. Voting is underway in Johannesburg for the position of executive mayor. The ANC's Mpho Mwerane is up against the DA's Mpho Phalatse. We'll take you there live in a short while. We'll also take you to eThekwini, where earlier drama unfolded and councillors feared for their lives and had to run away. Our reporter is on standby and will take us through what actually happened. We'll bring you up to speed with what happened in Nelson Mandela Bay and in Mangaung as we finish the wrap of the metros. But we'll start in Ekurhuleni, where the DA's Tanya Campbell has been elected mayor of that city, defeating the ANC's Mzwandile Masina.
The challenges in our city are great, and it will take team effort to overcome them. Therefore, I would like to invite all political parties in this chamber today to take hands with us so that we can build an exceptional city that our residents will be proud to live and work in, and for those outside wanting to move into our city and invest within our city. This is a change our residents have been waiting for 20 years. Now is not the time for more promises. Now is the time to get things done. For far too long, our people have been living in conditions that are substandard in Ekurhuleni. Our residents have been living in a metro where service delivery is nearly non-existent, where millions of rands have been spent on housing projects, business centres and substations, and yet there is nothing to show our residents out there.
The new mayor of Ekurhuleni, they're giving her acceptance speech immediately after she was sworn in. Well, we're joined by our reporter, Matlako Komane, who has been watching those events unfold throughout the day. Matlako, good evening. We just heard parts or a bit from the incoming mayor's acceptance speech. It must have come as a huge disappointment for the ANC in particular.
Yes, definitely. We look at how things have been happening here and look at
Okay, the line is technology not playing ball there. That line scrambled. I hope we'll be able to get back to Matlako a little later once we've established a better line. Let's take you to eThekwini now, where a lot of drama and confusion was witnessed there, and that council meeting had to be adjourned to Wednesday. Our reporter Simpue Makanya sat through it all and joins us now on the line. Simpue, good evening to you. It was a day of drama. I mean, before the electricity problems, there was a lot of drama, people arguing, and the outgoing mayor, Mxolisi Kaunda, was one of the people who had to run away, fearing for their lives.
Precisely, Vuyo. Good evening to you and good evening to the viewers as well at home. I'll just say that the first council sitting of eThekwini was characterized by a lot of drama, as you have correctly alluded to it. It started, Vuyo, with the councillors raising pointless, point of orders, numerous points of orders. But throughout the day, the proceedings were able to, continue. And then the voting started with the position of the Speaker of the Council. And when the voting started, you'd recall that there were three names that were put forward. One was the representative of the ANC, which was Tabani Nyawose. The second one was the representative of the DA, as well as the third one being the representative of the SABC, Abantu Batho Congress, that's Mr. Philani Mavunda. The ANC representative in this particular instance, Vuyo, got the majority votes, which is 103 in total. He won the position of eThekwini Speaker in the council. But the problem then started, Vuyo, with the number of councillors who were eligible to vote, with the opposition councillors raising those point of orders to say that they don't think that the numbers that were read by the IEC actually correspond with the number of councillors that were present in that council sitting. But let's fast forward now to the main issue. The main issue now, Vuyo, is the fact that opposition parties in eThekwini Metropolitan have now sort of come to a conclusion to say they are going together when it comes to voting for the other positions, very crucial positions. There's a position of the mayor that is still, going to be, contested, as well as the position of the deputy mayor of the eThekwini Metropolitan that is still, to be, decided. So the opposition parties have now come to a conclusion to say they will be fielding singular candidates that they will vote together as a bloc to ensure that they do unseat the ANC in the eThekwini Metropolitan. And Vuyo, to emphasize the point of number, if you put together the numbers of the opposition parties versus the numbers of the ANC will have difficulty if it does not get the support of the smaller opposition parties in terms of them putting forward their preferred candidates. So the meeting ended up being adjourned as a result of the electricity failure that was experienced in that area. But besides that electricity failure, we saw quite worrying where just a group of ANC supporters stormed the meeting unannounced, basically disrupting the proceedings, if I may put it that way, to say that they were not happy with the processes, and some of them were singing songs such as the DA will never be in charge of this municipality. The speaker, newly elected speaker, had to then, call a meeting afterwards to say that due to the electricity failure that has been experienced in this area where they were, then the meeting will then have to be adjourned for Wednesday, where the voting for these other crucial positions will then commence every year.
Before I let you go, Simpiwe, it's going to be interesting because I was looking earlier at what happened in Newcastle and what happened at Umvoti municipality, where in spite of an agreement that was announced between the ANC and the IFP, we saw IFP councillors voting against the ANC, ending up snatching, those municipalities from the municipalities that should have, in terms of that agreement, municipalities that should have gone to the ANC because it had bigger numbers. But today, some IFP councillors clubbing with the DA and Abantu Batho and other parties and ousting or denying the ANC the privilege of being able to elect mayors there. So it's going to be interesting what happens in eThekwini, given what you've just said, that the opposition has decided that they are going to go to vote together as a bloc.
And I think that is going to be the challenge for the African National Congress in that municipality, to be, precise, because the IFP, if you recall, for the position of the speaker, there were about 14 councillors of the IFP who could not vote, who abstained from voting. I think they were basically trying to toe the line of the party leaders to say that they must vote, they must actually assist in municipalities that are hung the ANC to govern. But in this instance, 14 of them did not vote. But after the numbers were then calculated, I think the IFP then realized that, hang on, we actually do have an opportunity here to take charge of the municipality if we work together with the opposition parties, because the IFP in the province has been accusing the ANC of negotiating in bad faith. They are accusing the ANC of saying the ANC comes to say, let's work together on this municipality, we will support you here, but when it comes to the actual voting, the ANC will then decide to do something, contrary to what the agreement was from the initial, points. But to stress this point, we were to say that in terms of the numbers in eThekwini, not looking good for the African National Congress, and if things continue as the opposition councillors are saying that they will be voting as a bloc and they will be voting together for a single candidate, then I can certainly tell you that the ANC will be out of power in eThekwini as well.
Yeah. Very good. It's going to be very interesting indeed. Simpro Makanya, our reporter, who spent the day at the eThekwini municipality, where they were trying to elect mayor, deputy mayor. The speaker was, of course, elected. Drama unfolded there. Some people having to run away, fearing for their lives. We'll see what happens on Wednesday. In Johannesburg, voting is underway for the position of executive mayor. The ANC's Mpho Morane is up against the DA's Mpho Phalatse. Earlier, the DA's Vasco da Gama was elected Speaker of the Council. Our political reporter Natasha Piri is there following the events for us. She joins me now. Natasha, good evening. Tell us what's happening right now as we speak.
Good evening, Bravo. So what is actually underway right now is actually members of council, all 267 members are actually, casting their ballots. And the question is, will it be Dr. Mpho Phalatse of the DA? Will it be Mr. Mpho Morane of the ANC? We saw earlier on today in the morning, the ANC was in a jovial mood, and I spoke to a certain gentleman by the name of Mr. Dada Morero, who's the regional secretary of the ANC in the Greater Johannesburg region. And he was confident at that time that Mpho Morane would actually, win the city's top position. But it seems as if things have changed. Bravo, you've seen what's actually happened in Ekurhuleni and other parts of the country. Could the same thing be happening right now in the city of Johannesburg? Mr. Morero, you join us once again hours later. What's the mood like? I mean, I spoke to Mama Nomvula earlier on, and listen, she was saying that this is a democratic process. Yes, the ANC is actually disappointed at how things are actually unfolding. You have Mr. Da Gama, who is elected Speaker from the DA, and things really aren't looking good for your party right now.
No, well, we had our spirits were very high in the morning because we were informed of the position of the DA, which meant they will be fielding their own candidate, which meant it was an advantage to the ANC to go through. We had sufficient numbers with small parties, so it's unfortunate that 2016 is repeating itself. We are shocked, but there are things that I think the ANC as a party needs to look into deeper, which in the main it is not about service delivery or anything, because I am convinced you can't falter us on service delivery matters. Our track record speaks for itself. So I think that's...
But the people of Soweto don't have electricity, so you can't say your track record speaks for itself, Mr. Moreno.
Well, electricity it's a different matter, and the problems are... It's not that there's no supply of electricity. It's because transformers and substations burn and they explode due to illegal connection and all sorts of things. So you can't fault us on roads, on stormwater and all sorts of issues. So I think the ANC has to do something in terms of our election strategy. What is it that we need to do to ensure that there's a big turnout? And I think that's where the problem is. I'm not convinced that we are not able to provide services. Well, there's a bigger problem in relation to employment, which I think it's a bigger issue that South Africa has to address. And it's not only the problem affecting the ANC, but it's a problem of society, so that we can respond to the high levels of unemployment in our communities. And it's part of the reasons why people don't necessarily go out and vote, because they do not have a relationship with voting to say, why are we voting when we are living advert poverty, unemployed, and so on and so on.
You talk about 2016. Did you see this coming? And I mean, clearly the EFF has lived up to its words. It wants to hurt you where it hurts the most.
No, look, we never expected that they will take such a drastic decision once more. Having assessed and listened to how they interact with the DA before elections and even after elections. So they have been convinced that they do not have any relationship with the Democratic Alliance. And secondly, we thought that our numbers are sufficient and the DA will then fill their person, Action SA will fill their person, which gives an advantage to the ANC. But unfortunately, the EFF had to spoil the party once more and voted with the Democratic Alliance. It's their strategy, but they should know that South Africa is watching, communities are watching. They did it first in 2016, they're doing it now. And remember, they also declined in Johannesburg. So communities are watching, and one day, or in the next election, they will regret their actions.
You keep on bringing back the points of 2016, and we know what happened 2 years down the line, 2019. Mr. Herman Mashaba resigned as, the mayor of Johannesburg back then, where he was still under the DA. It seems as if ANC members are consoling themselves and saying, listen, history will actually repeat itself. It seems as if the ANC members, your caucus, are consoling themselves in that history will repeat itself. And that in 2016, Herman Mashaba was elected as the Johannesburg mayor under the ban of the DA. 2 years later, he stepped down.
Well, I hope I understand your question well, but our caucus is in high spirit. We never expected to lose today. We thought we will go through. So they are focused, and that is why you can see they're singing, because in singing they're saying we have accepted. We have lost the elections inside Kansai. We've got good numbers. We've got 87 wards out of the 135 wards. So we still represent a huge population of Johannesburg residents who depend on the leadership of the ANC to intervene on our day-to-day challenges and problems. So we are comfortable that we will do better in the next election that is coming. We just have to ensure that we change certain things in our election strategy and in our messaging as the party. Then we will be able to increase our...
Okay. Thank you so much, Mr. Moreira. I wish we had more time for this. But of course, Bravo, you've heard it there from Dada Moreira, the regional secretary of the ANC here in the Greater Johannesburg region, of course, saying that, listen, they're quite disappointed, but, throughout the day, they actually saw this coming, and they're somewhat not surprised at all. Theirs is to actually do better come the next local government elections. Back to you in studio.
Thanks, Natasha. Natasha Piros keeping an eye on the goings-on at Johannesburg. Do stay tuned, because as soon as the outcome of that voting process that's currently ongoing is out, she'll be the first to let us know. Now, the ANC may be nervous about Johannesburg, especially after losing Ekurhuleni, but down in Nelson Mandela Bay, they are rejoicing, or at least breathing a sigh of relief. Earlier today, after being almost assured of victory, the DA lost Nelson Mandela Bay by one vote. The ANC's Eugene Johnson is now the city's new mayor. Members of his mayoral committee come from most of the 9 political parties that have voted him in.
The newly elected Nelson Mandela Metro Mayor Eugene Johnson is not new to the political scene. A former trade unionist in the 1980s who later led the ANC structures in the Northern Alliance of Gqeberha and served as a councillor. Now with the top office in the Metro, she has taken on her biggest job yet. But with her newly elected MECs, she is eager to get the ball rolling.
I will work tirelessly with my team to ensure that our communities are safe. Honourable Speaker, there are no place for corruption in the administrators. We have a capable team. I've made a commitment to the members of the coalition government that we will root out corruption. My mandate, as set out by the ANC election manifesto, is clear, and as far as corruption is concerned, I will ensure that this municipality is run by ethical leaders, managers, and workers. I will remove those from office who fail to do what they are paid to do. And we will institute determined and resolute implementation of the anti-corruption strategy under the Justice and the Crime Prevention Strategy Cluster and SARS Anti-Corruption Unit.
Meanwhile, it was the swapping of seats by smaller parties that led to the DA losing power in the Metro. The Northern Alliance, Defenders of the People, United Democratic Movement and Abantu Integrity Movement, which were all previous coalition partners with the DA, voted against the party. Former DA Mayor Ngqababanga says, although they are disappointed with the outcome of events, there will be a strong opposition that fights for the rights of the people in the Metro.
Last night we had a meeting with them. What they expected out of us was really ridiculous. We couldn't accept it because it could have affected service delivery. Because to these people it's all about positions. And we chose principle because running a government that is not going to be manageable, and in particular with the crisis of water that we're faced with, giving that to a person who's not experienced could have been disastrous for the city. And unfortunately, people don't hold into principles, and it's so disappointing that some of the people like AIM, that we thought that they were principled, they've just changed and gave back the ANC back the city. They claimed that to fight for clean governance, but they gave it back to the ANC. But the question is that what will happen to the people? Will services be delivered to the people? And as the opposition, will do everything into our power to make them account for whatever action.
In an even bigger twist, the EFF voted with the DA, contrary to the national mandate of remaining neutral. Despite this, the absence of the DA's Retief Odendaal worked in the favour of the ANC and its partners. The mayor also announced her members of the mayoral committee. Lerato Fekisi, SABC News, Gqeberha.
Well, the ANC has also taken has been returned to power in Mangaung. The newly elected mayor of the Metro, Mxolisi Sionzana, has returned with fresh promises of doing right by residents. In the past 5 years, Mangaung has been grappling with poor service delivery, political infighting within the ruling party, and poor financial management, which saw the municipality being placed under administration. Sionzana was re-elected after serving as mayor for 3 months prior to the November 1 local government elections. Mapaseka Mutibi Ngwane was elected as deputy mayor of Mangaung. 101 councillors of the newly constituted council were sworn in at that inaugural meeting today in Bloemfontein.
The ANC has managed to regain control of the Mangaung Metro by 51% of the votes. Mangaung is one of 2 metros in the country that the ruling party managed to retain in this year's local government elections. Some opposition parties are not impressed that Sionzana is back in the driver's seat. He won by 55 votes against the DA's mayoral candidate, Johan Pretorius, who secured 29 votes, and the AASD's Papi Mokoena, who got 15 votes.
Councillor Zionzana was a previous mayor as well. He is just going over again. I mean, the last 3 months that he was the mayor, nothing really happened. Service delivery is very bad. We are looking at a city that's sitting with no water for the last 3 to 4 days, and it looks like it's going to go on for the rest of the week. So, yeah, we're going to keep him accountable.
We are not going to get any service. I must give the people of Mangaung an assurance that nothing is going to change. We're still going back to the field or to the ground where people are going to start moaning about the Mangaung.
Others are hopeful.
Hope that he, as the executive mayor, he's going to put the interest of the people of Mangaung first and be able to ensure that there is service delivery in Mangaung, and that the experience that he has garnered, he puts to positive use for the people of Mangaung and nothing else.
The ANC says it is aware of the shortcomings that led to its failure in the last term.
Collectively, the African National Congress could not deliver up to the expectations, and we are confident that this time things will change.
The re-elected mayor says it's back to basics.
Today is not a day of speeches. It's just to say we heard you and we promise. Issues of refuse removals, issues of potholes, like you said, and the cleanliness is going to be top on our agenda. And we are not going to move alone. We are going to move with you.
9 political parties are part of the 101-member council that will steer the metro for the next 5 years. Palesa Mwiti, SABC News, Bloemfontein.
Up next, whatever happened to the ANC, IFP coalition? This after IFP councillors today clubbed with the DA and other parties and took over municipalities that, according to an agreement announced last week, should have gone to the ANC. Our panel weighs in on that, as well as several other issues today's drama has actually thrown up, including, of course, asking the question, has the DA handled this process to their advantage? That and more coming up in a moment. Don't go away. Welcome back. He is the Watchdog. I'm now joined by our panel of analysts, Kanye Makubane and Ongama Mdimka, to examine a few issues, including how it happened that today the IFP councillors clubbed with the DA and other parties and took over municipalities that, according to an agreement announced last week, should have gone to the ANC. We'll also look at how the DA has actually managed things over the past few days. In Nelson Mandela Bay, for example, they were almost assured, of a victory. They had a great majority of the small parties on their side on Friday, only to lose them over the past couple of days, resulting in the ANC and its partners, the same partners that had promised to back the DA, now going with the ANC, and the ANC-led coalition winning the vote there. Kanye, Ongama, I mean, what a day of drama. I want to start with the Democratic Alliance. It's interesting how it has won and lost, and for the most part, almost, mysteriously or through carelessness, I would say, or maybe bad handling, of the negotiations over the past a couple of days. One would have thought, in the case of Nelson Mandela Bay, having received the support that they had received from the small parties, that Ngababanga was complaining about, suggesting they had betrayed them. One would have thought that they would maintain or keep a very tight lead, you know, on what they had been able to secure and make sure that over the weekend, because it was predictable, because the ANC did say that they are going to, I mean, the whole delay of a few days was meant to buy time so that they can then win, you know, the smaller parties over. I mean, I don't know what to say about how they handle that one. Ongama Mtimga?
Yeah, it's an interesting one. For me, you know, there's a number of things here. The politics of illegality as far as that meeting last week was concerned, and how in the intergovernmental relationships between a province and local government, the legal issues can be enforced in ways that favor certain political outcomes. So it's quite interesting. But also,
Ongama, just
remember,
Ongama, if you please hold for me, Ongama, sorry. Hold your thoughts right there. We're going to go to the city of Johannesburg, where Action SA President Herman Mashaba is giving a briefing.
We are going to do it tomorrow in Tshwane. We are going to do it. We nearly did it in eThekwini. Unfortunately, as you are aware, council collapsed there, but we've got the speaker there already. I mean, it's not ours, but we obviously with our influence, our collaboration with other parties and our influence, these are the results of our commitment in unseating the ANC. And we're really very disappointed. And I actually heard the speaker saying that they thank their coalition partners. I just want to make it very clear. DA does not have any coalition with us. They refused, point blank, to get into coalition with us. But for us, we put South Africa first. Because as I've always maintained, that a prosperous South Africa and an ANC cannot coexist in one space. One has got to die, and it can't be South Africa, it's got to be the ANC. And what the DA wanted to do to save them, we've now given them the responsibility. And we are ready as Action SA and our coalition partners, if they want to come and talk to us. Beyond this, our doors are open. But I want to make it very clear to them that if they want to come and talk to us, they must come and talk to us with the EFF, because we don't want the games that they've played, the games of divide and rule. We voted for them as one bloc. So when they want to talk to us, they must come and talk to us in one bloc. For us as an Action SA, our doors are open, but we are not going to talk to them on our own to ensure that we can have a stable government. They wanted to really be on their own and run this government, and with people of Johannesburg, people of Ekurhuleni, people of Tshwane, they deserve stable government that can deliver services to them. So we'll wait, and we shall await the response of the DA. We are ready for them to talk as and when they want to talk, because we had an opportunity the last 2 weeks to talk, but obviously they've tried to really play games with us. If they want to play the games, we wanted to demonstrate to them that we can also play the game.
Mr. Mashaba. So, okay, does this mean that members of Action SA actually voted for Dr. Mpopaladze? And if they did, I mean, how can you trust the DA if they actually went behind your back?
Well,
furthermore, you pulled out as, you know, from putting your head in the ring as Johannesburg Mayor. You must be feeling gutted right now.
No, I think you don't have to really be dumb to understand that you can't really be a mayor at 16%. I think we did fantastic, and we are proud of our achievement, and we're really grateful to the voters who actually gave us an electoral historic result. We're grateful for that. But obviously for us to have been able to govern, we needed a coalition arrangement. And DA gave us an impression that they wanted to talk to us until Saturday, when they came out with a bombshell to drop all of us, left us totally confused. So that's why we wanted to ensure that they don't give these municipalities to the ANC. This is a plan, as a result of DA, with their plan to give these municipalities back to the ANC.
Mr. Mashaba Malunga from Newsroom Africa, help me understand. I just want to understand, why did you pull out Why did you pull out as the mayoral candidate? I think everyone wants to understand why you pulled out. And two, what would you say to people who are disappointed by you pulling out?
Well, I think Malungelo, I think you don't have to really be a rocket scientist or a statistician to understand the electoral reform. You can't have government and be a mayor with 16%. We wanted to form a multi-party government with a DA with us. But unfortunately, DA played the roulette game with us over the last 2 weeks and really dropped us at the last minute. So it was no point for us to actually try and really contest. That's why we said, okay, DA, because we want to give this municipality to the ANC. No ways we're going to allow it. We are going to give you that responsibility and put South Africa first to make sure that we remove the ANC.
What would you say to people that are disappointed at you at pulling out? Because there are people who are disappointed at you pulling out. What did you say to them?
I can imagine if anyone would really be disappointed in us. How can we be a mayor at 16%? I think people are not stupid.
It's politics. Anything is possible.
No, how can it be possible? Tell me, how can you be a mayor at 16%?
Mr. Mashaba Kuleli from ENC, what is the long end game here? We do understand that this means nothing. You can still come back as mayor. Is there an agreement between you and the EFF to once again field you later on as a mayor here and a vote of no confidence against whoever will be winning here tonight? And secondly, how do you feel about the EFF having with the DA this time around?
No, that I think it's something that the EFF can really deal with. That is why I'm saying with the DA, we are willing to talk, but they must not call us the coalition partners. We are not coalition partners with the DA. DA is...
Action SA leader Herman Mashaba obviously very bitter about how the Democratic Alliance has treated them. He was hoping that they would formalize a very proper arrangement in terms of which they will together govern Johannesburg, but the DA let them down. Natasha is going to come back and tell us where things are with regard to that voting and where they stand and what the outcome is, if there is any. We will try and get back to her as soon as she is able to that. But we've been joined by political analysts Ongama Mdimga and Kanye Makubana. Sorry to disturb you, mess with your train of thought there, Ongama. We had to go to that because we wanted to listen to what Herman Mashaba had to say as he was coming fresh from, the vote that is going on in Johannesburg. And what he just said talks to both what I was asking you, but also something I want you to, just before you continue from where you left off, I want you to take a listen to something Helen Zille, the federal chairperson of the Democratic Alliance, had to say on our sister program Full View a little earlier on when she was asked about their attitude towards partners and potential partners and how that was not how everyone was actually complaining about that. Take a listen to what Helen Zille had to say.
This has got absolutely nothing to do with being a bully. In elections, some parties get more votes than others, and they're allowed to nominate their candidates and vote for them. When you stand for election, you don't give any guarantee to any voter that you are going to vote for the candidate of another party, and no voter should expect that that will automatically happen.
Your thoughts on listen to what she had to say. Obviously defending their stance, listening to what Herman Mashaba had to say, listening to how Ngababanga was complaining, about being betrayed. I don't know what you make of it.
Yeah, it's interesting. So the stance that Helen Zille and John Stesen has taken is a power-centric one, which has been associated, interestingly, with masculine logic in when feminist critiques of international relations and how war games characterize international relations, that they tend to be, power-centric. And I think that there's taken that approach and just defending it on the principle that, they've had the most votes and therefore, they should be calling the shots, as it were. Obviously, it's resulted in them not getting as many councils as they could have gotten if they played a more collaborative approach as opposed to the stance that they are holding. But the interesting thing about these coalition agreements, Vuyo, is that parties, especially both the DA and the ANC, have had an approach that says their best alternative to a negotiated outcome is, in fact, not even governing. And by so doing, they attempted to neutralize the bargaining power of smaller political parties. And I think that they are also pragmatic about how these coalitions would be messy anyway. So perhaps staying out is the best approach. And I think that it's unfortunate that these political parties have missed a moment of crafting something much more workable than this opposition versus governing coalition politics that they are stuck on.
Kanye, from what I hear, but also which Ngababanga to an extent confirmed, it's not like, these small parties were making incredible, unreasonable demands. They were asking for, inclusion and saying, even if we are small, but we have to have something to show for it. And they were prepared to have the DA, having the great majority of positions. Obviously, the ANC, gave these parties a lot more than they had actually bargained for. I will talk a bit about whether that's even workable. But your thoughts about the attitude of the DA towards these conversations?
We've seen a lot of blindsiding taking place over the past 48, 72 hours. And I think the most dramatic turn of events was over the weekend when, in a very roundabout way, the DA decided to pull yet another card out of their pack, saying they're going to put forward their own, mayoral candidate. And this, of course, upset the multi-party group made up of the UDM, COPE, FF+, ACDP and Action SA. And I think that what the DA has done in many ways is entrench its own position as an opposition party, or as a party that is not willing to go into a minority coalition government where they have to put another political party forward. But I think that in the long term, what the DA has done now is going to come back and actually bite them in the butt, because we see the DA is winning big municipalities like the city of Ekurhuleni, and we've seen them winning the speaker and the speaker in the city of Johannesburg as well. I'm less optimistic about this because we remember in 2016, the DA was also sitting in a similar position where they had Nelson Mandela Bay, they had Tshwane, they had city of Johannesburg, all of which they lost by the time the 2021 local government elections came into being. So then what is the strategy at play here? I have my own conspiracy theories here. I think what the DA has done has actually unleashed a long game in the other political parties. For instance, if we can look at city of Ekurhuleni, all the parties banded together to vote for the Democratic Alliance, meaning that the Democratic Alliance will continue to need those political parties that put them into power today to pass key and strategic votes within the city of Ekurhuleni, because without the continuous support of parties like the EFF, who unfortunately the DA had previously said they have no interest in working in, but the current game that the EFF and the other parties have played right now is that in essence they've put the DA in a tight corner by actually sending them to positions in the municipality like mayor, like speaker. I suspect that they are setting them up for failure. I suspect that the multi-party group that has been bitterly disappointed by the DA's turn and blindsiding them, I think that they are now going to play a long game with the Democratic Alliance, withdrawing their support, withdrawing their votes. And what we can expect in the next coming months and even years are bitter fights between the DA and parties within the legislatures whose votes and support they will desperately need to stay in power. So it's not going to be an easy ride, even though the DA expects to also get a victory in the city of Tshwane tomorrow. I think that Herman Mashaba pulling out of the candidate race to run for mayor is also strategic. I think he knows that he will regain it further down the line when they've dealt with the DA. So I'm still expecting blood on the floor. I don't think that the other multi-party group is going to take this lying down. They've given them this particular position so that they can turn around and actually entrench the power that they are going to, need the DA in order to continue passing key and strategic votes in the legislatures. They will need the power of the very parties that they betrayed over the weekend. So I don't think that this is actually good for the DA, that they've won all of these mayoral positions and speaker positions. I believe they're being set up for failure.
Ongama, today in Newcastle, IFP councillors, clubbed with the DA and other parties and took over municipalities. In Newcastle, I think the ANC had 22 and the IFP had 18. Now, in terms of that agreement that was announced last week by the IFP president, where the ANC had more seats, the IFP would stay in the opposition but support the ANC and vice versa. At Umvoti, something similar happened. IFP councillors went with Abantu Batu party and the ANC was left in a lurch. None of the two parties wanted to come on today. They want to wait for everything for all these processes to be concluded before they can make pronouncements. There was a scheduled ANC media briefing this afternoon, which was also postponed. The IFP didn't want to come on, saying they will wait until tomorrow sometime when things are a lot clearer. But what are we to make now of that agreement between the ANC and IFP? Because, if the IFP continues to do what they started today, I don't think it's going to bode well, for the ANC, and that may unravel in several other municipalities across that province.
Yeah, the relationship is definitely in a crisis mode at this stage, and it's expected because these political relationships and the bargaining and horse trading is resulting in change which is happening very rapidly. And if it is the case that within 2 weeks of announcing an agreement, it collapses in the manner that it is, how much more will governing in a 5-year period with a difference of 1 to 2 to 3 seats? It just shows that sometimes national level agreements about these things can only work for however long they can before local dynamics play a role. But also it shows, I think, as Kanye mentioned, the politics of blood on the floor. And there is an alternative approach. And I think that one will begin to sound like a broken record. There is a different path to constituting executive political leadership at local government level. And that political parties are not seeing the opportunity to do so in ways that eliminate governing coalition versus opposition party. You are always going to have this situation where questions arise as to to what extent do voting seats in council shift with each successive council meeting and result in a situation where whoever has got your victory in one, for example, now in constituting the municipality, the executive political leadership, may, in fact, a few months from now, if not few weeks, given the rapid way in which changes are happening, changes and loses that seat to the opposing bloc. It's just a chaotic state of affairs that political parties are stuck on. And indeed, I agree with Kanye that there are lots of games. There are vindictive politics. There are politics of entrapment and all of these things that are at play that are going to make it very difficult for any party to govern sustainably in this 5-year period.
But Kanye, I mean, we know why political parties are not opting for what Ongama says is probably the most obvious and right thing to do. It deprives them, or, that arrangement gives them, all of them, big and small, or kingmakers and kings, it gives them less power than what negotiations and entering into these arrangements they are entering into now would actually give them.
Vuyo, one of the key things that comes out of the coalitions right now is that the ANC is no longer seen as a key player. We've seen a lot of the political parties in their back and forths of coalition discussions actually, backtracking on agreements that they had made with the ANC because they no longer yield that particular power that they used to yield before when they were in the ruling party benches. And now the ANC has said that it is actually okay, with moving and relegating itself to opposition benches. And I think one thing that I have to flag is that we've seen in other countries and in other examples how when liberation movements lose power in the way that the ANC has lost power at a local level, it's very difficult to regain it. And as such, I think that the ruling party has to make peace that the ANC as they know it right now will no longer be the ANC of the future. We will have pockets of support in areas like the Nelson Mandela Bay where they have had an outright victory, but in big and key metros where they enjoyed victories before, they have become a minority player with bigger players coming into the fray, and we even see civic movements. Boy, I think that's another thing that has really excited me out of these local government elections. We've seen the Ligwa Community Forum in Standerton electing a mayor with the help of other smaller political parties, and also in the Maluti Apofong municipality, we've seen MAP 16 there rising up and electing a mayor. So the picture of politics in this country will never be the same again. It will forever be changed. And I think that sadly the ANC can start making peace with the fact that as new players, as new political parties, as civic movements come into the main political arena, they then move into the periphery and are no longer a key player.
I mean, one wonders here, obviously, I mean, we tried to get the IFP on, and they're not prepared to talk just yet to find out what is actually happening there and what it means for the future of that relationship, given the many municipalities that are yet to, hung municipalities that are yet to form, working councils. One wonders how much of this could well be or have to do with residual tensions, anger even, at some of your IFP diehards, from some of your IFP diehards at having to sleep with the enemy, so to speak.
Yeah, it very much may have to do with that, especially given the fact that even though, so they're being challenged to work across the political divide, and you may, and that comes at a higher level than the municipal level, and you may find that relations have been so fraught in some of the municipalities, that they would have made it unworkable. But also there's been arguments that the ANC acted in bad faith. I was still listening to that in terms of determining to what what's the evidence that's cited for that. But there's always a conflation of issues when it comes to managing relationships between political parties at a local government level, because each local situation has got different dynamics, whereas the parties may be intending to work together on a national level. And the dynamics at a local level may actually make it very difficult for those in that space to actually carry out the wishes of their national counterparts.
Kanye Makubane, I'm going to ask you to wait a bit. We're going to go straight to Ekurhuleni, where the former ANC Mayor Mzwandile Masina is talking about how he feels right now.
I mean, you got 86 seats. You had more previously. Are you, what plans are you going to have when you go back to this drawing board? Because that speaks to, your voter base that is not perhaps satisfied with what they've been receiving.
Well, the ANC will have a moment to reflect candidly on what would have necessitated the outcome that we experience. And at that point, I think at the right time, as the leadership of the ANC, will be able to make necessary comments with regard to what is the next step. But what I can tell you, we're not going to be permanent in the opposition benches. We're going to work very hard to make sure that we can serve our people. And, we living, we are not bitter. We just are going to be doing our work moving from here to ensure that our people are serviced in the area. As you know, that the ANC won almost 78 of the votes, so we've got a huge responsibility of ensuring that we don't collapse this institution of government, because we know what it means. We know why it is important to ensure that we can hold those who are elected to account. But there are no sour grapes on our part. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
An obviously disappointed Mzwandile outgoing mayor, Mzwandile Masina, saying he is not bitter. The ANC, or the leadership of the ANC, they are going to go back to the drawing board, look at what went wrong. They don't hope to be in the opposition benches for long. Well, we'll see what that actually means. And unfortunately, we have run out of time. I'm going to have to thank both Ongama Mtimka and Kanye Makubane for their time and insights right now, but also our reporters who are keeping us updated with everything that happened during this day of drama, as municipalities across the country, hung municipalities specifically, are trying to negotiate or have negotiated very fragile coalitions in many instances. As Ongama Mtimka was saying, in some instances they depend on one or two people, changing sides, and all hell may just break loose. We'll see what happens. But for tonight, that's all we had for you. Do join us again tomorrow evening, 8 p.m. sharp. Good night.